Hey, everybody, before we get to this episode of The Space Between Years, just want to remind you of our friends over at Mohawk Honda, Freeman's Bridge Road, Scotia, Glenville, where they always go out of their way to please you. Listen, I know we just got through the bulk of summer. We just went through Labor Day weekend, which is the unofficial end of summer. Kids just went back to school over the last week. So now it's time for the adults to settle in and make some adult decisions. That's right. And one of them's got to include your vehicles. You got to figure out if you want to maintain your current vehicles, if you're going to trade one in, blah, blah, blah. You all know the jazz. You're going to break down the numbers, break down the mileage. You're going to break down the Kelley Blue Book numbers. You're going to take a look at everything and anything to involve your decision. Well, you know the people to go to that'll help you the most in making that decision? That's right. It's our folks at Mohawk Honda. Don't go to some random Joe Schmo dealership that's going to look to just get what they can out of you just so they can have extra inventory in their lot when they know damn well once they buy your used vehicle, they don't really have much on the lot to turn around and sell back to you, so you still leave with a vehicle that day. You gotta go to Mohawk Honda. They have the biggest certified pre-owned used vehicle inventory, not just in the capital region, but anywhere around the Northeast. So I don't care if you're from Western Mass, if you're from Southern Vermont, if you're up near Saratoga and Lake George, out near Syracuse, down near Hudson, or Kingston, make your way to Mohawk Honda in Scotia, Glenville on Freeman's Bridge Road, because they will make sure they put your values first before anyone else's. Mohawk Honda, well, they always go out of their way to please you. Hey, what's up? Episode 14 of This Space Between Your Ears, right here, presented by Godzilla Media. Hi, I'm Brian. Nice to see you all again. Don't forget that, hey, if you want to comment on the show, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Brian Cady. It's my name, all as one word, BrianCady. If you want to contact the show, have any long-form questions, any stories about your mental health journey, or stories about issues that I've discussed on the show, it's my name, Brian.Cady, first name, last name, at GodzillaMedia.com, GOZILLA media.com. Yeah. And our sponsors, like I mentioned, Mohawk Honda, also sponsored by our friends over at Johnstone Supply. With like I mentioned when I was talking about Mohawk Honda, fall is here. It is within our reach. Football season has started up around the high school areas. College football has started. We just got through Labor Day weekend, and that all means changes may be coming to your home. Like, does your furnace need to be replaced? You looking to upgrade your heating system? Just because we got through summer doesn't mean you totally avoid the heating and cooling in your home because, the air conditioning unit, we got that fixed this summer. Great. Now you got nothing to worry about. And not so fast, my friend. Johnstone Supply in Troy can make sure your home is heated properly for this colder weather that's on the way. They're a family-owned and operated business that's been helping upstate New York residents for decades. So make sure you visit their store over at 6th Avenue in Troy for more information on how they can help you this fall, whether it's changing out your filters or making sure the home is heated properly for the new weather, checking your furnace, whatever it may be. Johnstone Supply in Troy. Their staff can help you answer any questions you may have, whether it be George, Tom, or anyone else in the staff. They're all going to be looking forward to helping you out. Check them out on Facebook by searching Johnstone Supply in Troy, or you can give them a call, 518-272-5922. Okay, now we've got all that out of the way. I know that anyone who's loyally been listening to this show on Google Play, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or has been watching these shows on YouTube. And I've gotten a few questions like this over the last couple weeks. Bri, what's going on? Where's your show? Because the last show I put out, episode 13, was done based on when I'm taping this now, which is September 9th of 2021. The last episode was 3 weeks ago. Where the hell you been? So a combination of things. Number one, my schedule is a little rough because with fall sports starting, I've taken on extra responsibilities than I have in the past to do announcing and play-by-play for fall sports. That's not the biggest reason of all, really. The biggest reason is because I just had to take a step away and just reflect on a few things. I just need to take in some stuff because over the last few weeks, for those of you who don't follow my wrestling podcast, White Heat with JJ Alexander, a good friend of ours from the wrestling business passed away a couple weeks ago from natural causes. And then the week after, right before Labor Day weekend, a female wrestler who was well known for her work in WCW and did some work with WWE on the national stage, she committed suicide. It was a very public thing, and it it messed with both of us a bit, mentally and emotionally. Both passings. So it was just a case of me taking a step back so I could reflect and gather and chew, which I feel like is something that, just to start off, because I really didn't expect to go in this direction to start off, but now that I just said those words, I feel like that's something that I've grown into. Because as I've laid out in one or two of my past episodes of this show, growing up, I wasn't allowed to gather, reflect, and chew and chew and chew and take in the pain and embracing the pain and feeling the pain. And it just wasn't an option. Whether it was self-imposed decisions to not feel, or it was requested of me to put on the brave face or put on the facade. It's just something that I didn't do growing up. And even as I got into my 20s, it was just something I didn't do. I just would put myself in a bubble, keep the emotion out of it, and just... And when you think of it, it's very cold to be like that, where you don't allow yourself to feel, and you're just kind of treating it logically. And you're just kind of like, all right, okay, so this person passed, right? So that means this is going to happen, that's going to happen. Or how do we get from point A to point B? How do we make sure this person has clothes ready? How do we make sure this person gets to the church on time? Like a zombie. That's the best way for me to put it. I would turn into a logistical zombie that wasn't feeling. It wasn't allowing himself to feel. And I think that all slowly started changing with the passing of my grandfather in 2016, if I remember correctly, was the year. Because that was when I was growing up. He was the day-to-day fatherly figure I had around me that would introduce me to sports, that really formulated the person, really had a good influence in the person, the man I became. So that was really the first time I allowed myself to feel it all because of who it was. It was my grandfather. So yeah, I feel like that's the most important thing, because people with the depression issues that I deal with, that's one of the things is, they either make themselves feel too much I mean, they allow the feelings to be more exaggerated than they need to be, and it drives them to potentially making poor decisions. Or the complete opposite, they put up an impenetrable wall and decide not to feel at all, which is just as bad. Um, so that's just through my own experience, how I feel. Um, but to get to the phrase of the day, as I'll put it, and this is a phrase I used when I was discussing the death of Daphne, the most recent one from a week or so ago. This is the phrase I came out with, and it's a phrase that stuck with me um, the entirety of the past week or so. And it's a phrase I think is going to stick with me until I see something being done about it. And it's quite appropriate that this is the phrase "stick with me," given um, where we're at in this time and place. And the phrase is this: I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Meaning this: I feel like every time I turn around, there's either someone committing suicide or disgusting, vile comments being made online that are unnecessary. There are people being criticized and hung out to dry when trying to make the best decisions possible for their mental health. Namely, the most common examples I can think of these days are pro athletes like Simone Biles or Naomi Osaka. And it's just it's the easiest way for me to sum up how I feel, like, because it's hard for me to really put into words beyond that phrase, that I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of getting angry. Like that's really what it comes down to. Like, I'm sick and tired of being sad. I'm sick and tired of being angry. And it's not even like it's weird because it's one of those things where I'm able to compartmentalize it because I don't let the sadness or the anger hang over me minute to minute of every day. It's just one of those things where when I see information regarding that topic, when I hear about it, when I read about it or hear about it, or whatever, that's when the sadness or anger or both come together. Um, so, and here's the way I break it down. To me, there's three categories where you get one, the other, or both. Deaths from natural causes, like my friend Jim from a few weeks ago. Deaths from natural causes, that's sadness. Like, it's a death you can't control. Yes, it's random and out of nowhere. It might bring a little anger, but in the end, there's nothing you could have really done about it because not even Jim knew about whatever was going on with. Um, and there's nothing official to confirm what exactly the cause of death was, but there was no paraphernalia involved, no alcohol or drugs. There was no widely known health issue he was going through, except for the fact he had knee surgeries and a back surgery over the last few years. So, and there were no infections from them. So, literally, it was out of nowhere. Um, so that's where sadness by itself comes. When people are ridiculing others for putting their mental health first and making those decisions, especially at a public forum like pro athletes, for example, that's where the anger really comes. Because it shows me that even in 2021, we still have a long way to go for mental health to stop being a taboo subject and stop being ridiculed. And it's just sad. It's just really sad. This isn't just like a keyboard warriors comment. This is just as much a corporate thing. Like there are companies out there. There are managers of companies out there that really don't know how to handle employees that have mental health problems. And because they treat them like shit, the employee ends up getting fired, quitting, or going into a manic space that makes their mental health even worse. So a lot of this feels like it has to be grassroots and come up, and the only grassroots being what these pro athletes are doing. And that's just bringing eyes and ears to the topic. And then once we have enough eyes and ears, or just get the right eyes and ears on the topic, then change can happen. Will it be on a company level, a state level, a national level, whatever needs to happen, it can happen. Then we get to the suicide of Daphne. And that's one I really want to focus on because I've had personal experience with suicides and a couple of people dying from drug overdose as well. That's where anger and sadness come in together. And the reason they come in together is this. For this specific incident, the breakdown of her mental health was due to a lot of bullying, particularly on social media. And to know that's what drove her to decide that she no longer wanted to be on this earth really, really pisses me off. And the sadness comes from the actual death and knowing that she felt like she was in a bad enough way where nothing could help her at this point, where the only solution in her mind was death. That's the sadness end of it. The anger end of it, though, is much more present because social media has really messed up society the last 20 years. Let's just be frank about that. Whether it be MySpace, AOL chat rooms, going way back, to Facebook eventually, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. Social media has really screwed the pooch on mental health. And I feel like we are at a point as people where I just wish people could think before they ever type or think before they ever speak. Some people have that filter. In fact, a lot of people have that filter. But it's always the great minority that causes the problems. It's always a small batch. It's always a small portion of rotten apples in the bigger batch that screws things up for everyone else. That's sad. It really is sad. And it does make me angry. Um, and sadness and anger are really the only two proper descriptive words I can mention when it comes to suicide. And anger, it's not necessarily anger at the person that committed the act. It's anger at yourself a little bit, actually. Um, Self blame, I guess, would be a proper phrase for it. I'll give you an example with actually both. Both of my friends who committed suicide. And it happened within less than a year, which really, really messed me up. Um, so, uh, Halloween 2013. It was, so Halloween was a Friday, I believe, that year. Maybe a Thursday. I can't remember. Um, Actually, I think it was like a third. I don't know. It was during the week. But anyways, that weekend right after Halloween, myself and two friends of mine were booked for a wrestling show out in Connecticut. Uh, One of those two friends went missing right around Halloween night. He apparently had his daughter dropped off to him. He took her trick or treating, dropped her off at her mother's house, and left, and then just disappeared after dropping her off. Um, in fact, I want to say Halloween was a Wednesday now that I think about it. But anyways, people searched for him Thursday and Friday, and eventually I was just like, I I got a hold of my other friend who was booked for the show, Chris, and I was like, hey, what are we doing? Um, because Chris was supposed to compete, and our other friend Tom was supposed to, I believe, referee, if I remember correctly. And I was just going for the sake of going and to um, observe the show and um, basically be a critic, more or less, for the owner, give the owner feedback on how the show was. And Chris said, "You go, so at least there's a representative for us there. I'll stay behind and see if I can help out with the search and figure things out." So I go by myself to Connecticut, and I'm sitting with everyone. Um, I'm sitting with everyone that's involved in the behind the scenes for the wrestling company, and they're figuring out the card and discussing the show and all that, and in the end, we're just kind of sitting around, just chilling before the show, before the doors open to the show, and I remember one of my friends, another guy named Chris. He came in. He came into the gymnasium where the show was going to be. He came in the gymnasium, and this was around, I want to say it was like 4:30, 5 o'clock. Doors were opening at 6. Um, he came in and told us that he just got off the phone with the other Chris, and they found Tom dead. And I remember the rest of the night that I was in that building. Physically, I was doing everything I was supposed to be doing. I was going through the motions, taking notes and all that. But I was just mentally completely numb the rest of the night. And because I wasn't there. And that was the part where I was angry, was that I had gone to Connecticut, and I felt a little selfish in that regard. Even though I had the blessing to go, I I just I had a little anger inside me for that. And obviously sadness. I mean, this is somebody I had been sharing the road with the last 6 months and gotten to know pretty well, and he seemed to be on a really good path with himself, physically and mentally. Because not being able to recognize it back then, I can recognize it now. He was going through a lot of stuff, his mental health, whether it be um, being a single parent, um, just woman issues, and just other stuff. Yeah, just really. And I just remembered, and I said this before to a few of my friends that I've told the story to, um, but to this day, I remember driving home that night from the show in Connecticut to Albany, because I was still living in Albany at the time. And to this day, I call it the loneliest I've ever felt driving in a car. Because I may have had music on, I don't remember. And if I did, I completely tuned it out. I was just in such a trance, is the best way to put it. I was alert. As a driver, I was alert. But aside from that, I was out of it. I was still trying to comprehend what happened and why. And yeah, I'll openly say it again and again. It was the loneliest and longest feeling 2 to 2.5 hour drive I've ever had in my life. And I don't know. It was just, sorry, I'm pouring myself a drink quick. It was, I don't know. It's like it's difficult to put in the words if you don't understand it. It's difficult to put in the words because it's been almost 8 years. I still can't comprehend what was possibly going through my mind at that point. I think it was honestly, I think it was really just shock. Honestly, um, because I had been seeing the growth over the last few months. So I think shock more than anything is really the best way to describe what was going on with me through that. So that was Tom, and then literally almost a year later, exactly. There's a gentleman who I went to high school with who was a couple years ahead of me, named Joey. And back then, I thought it was a punk ass that wasn't worth my time of day to try and befriend, even though it was a small school of about 500 kids and everybody knew everybody. I just, I don't know. I didn't go out. I never went out of my way to try and give him the time of day, basically. Because he was immature compared to where I was. And so years go by. We eventually reconnect because I became friends with a barber in the Albany area. and a group of his friends, and one of those friends in his group of friends was Joey. And we reconnected, and Joey had gotten into bodybuilding, and he he's about to have a kid, and he had just really really changed. Um, he was a much more approachable, likable, down to earth guy, way more so than he ever was when I experienced him in high school. Um, so we reconnected there, and actually became friends, and um, like to the point where we were together on Duke is the barber is his softball team. He'd play on it, and I'd help coach it, and it was just really good times. And then I remember it was either a few days or about a week or two before his passing. He had, and even a few times before that, in past months, had been posting stuff about just going through rough times. I'm not sure exactly the details of what was going on with him. I don't know if it was problems with his baby mama, if it was other stuff. I don't know. But I remember texting him. And for the longest time, I had the text saved in my phone. But I think when I switched phones 2 years ago, I somehow lost the text, and I don't know why. But anyways, yeah, somehow I lost the text when I switched phones about 2 years ago. Anyways, but I just sent him a text just saying, hey, man, because we had gotten to that point where I felt like I felt comfortable enough reaching out and saying, hey, man, if you need to talk, I mean, I'm here. I'm always here. If you just want to get together and have a beer and just talk shit, I'm in the area. Let's talk. And he just said some little lines of, everything's cool. I'm gonna be all right. I appreciate it. I love you. And that was that. And that text was sent to me literally a couple of days before I got news that he had passed and committed suicide. And that one hurt. That one really hurt. And the reason that one really hurt is because I literally had just spoken to him a few days prior. Literally had that text exchange with him a few days beforehand. I want to say the text exchange was on the 26th of October. He ends up passing on the 28th, 29th. Yeah, it just smacked me in the face. All right. My dates are off, but same concept. So I believe that the text exchange was around the 20th of October, and he passed on the 22nd. Yeah, that screwed me up. And but it's weird because the way I got snapped out of the funk from that is not something I was expecting. It was the wake, and I don't mean to giggle there, but things happen in weird ways. So first off, when I got to the wake, the line was long. I all right. So if you're from the area and you're familiar with Dan Keenan Funeral Home, the entrance they allow people to use is in the back of the building where their small parking lot is. The line was out through that door along the back side leading towards, I can't remember the goddamn side street that you enter the parking lot from, but it was to that sidewalk, down the remainder of that street to Delaware Avenue, and wrapped around partially towards the front door of the funeral home. That's how long the goddamn line was. And I got in the line. When I got in the line, it was still just wrapped around that corner. So the line was long. And it was good timing because when I got there, directly in front of me were Duke and another friend of ours, Mike, and we just talked about a bunch of stuff. And at one point, we brought up Joey, and we just laughed about stupid shit he said or did, and it was just so random because I didn't know when they were getting there. They didn't know when I was getting there. We just happened to be in line together, and and that was my way of processing and mourning, essentially, was just randomly being able to have that experience waiting in line at the wake. It was, I can't even, and like by the time I reached the door to enter the funeral home, like my brainwaves had completely changed 180 degrees. Like I was still sad, and it was horrible to see his sister and Joey's little kid and Joey's parents. But like, it's just weird how things work out like that sometimes. And then you come to the other side where of things where you know you couldn't have done anything because you weren't part of that lifestyle, but you still have some anger because you wish you were there for them more. And that's the two friends of mine who died from overdoses. Frankie and Chris, childhood friends. Didn't stay in touch with Frankie as much after high school because he was living between here in New York and out in California, and we just lost touch. Chris, I stay in touch with a little easier because it's hard to ignore somebody that lives 4 to 5 doors down from you. So we stay in touch a little more regularly and saw each other regularly. And that, if there's one out of the two where I feel more anger about or felt more anger about, it was his, because he's literally 4 to 5 doors down from me. We had each other's phone numbers. I mean, we weren't regularly staying in touch. We were staying in touch enough where we, I thought we were close enough where he could still talk to me about anything that was going on. And the thing is, all 4 of these deaths all came. Frankie's a little earlier than the other 3, but like they were all pretty close to each other. Yeah, because if I remember correctly, this was, yeah. So Tom was 2013, a Halloween to 2013. Joey was just before Halloween of 2014. Chris was late March of 2016. So 2.5 years with 3. And Frankie was a bit earlier. Not that much earlier. Frankie was June of 2012. So that was 4 deaths in less than 4 years. Yeah. Rough time. Rough time. But it all comes back to the phrase I said earlier, and this is the phrase I had. I know it's a phrase I used around the time of Chris's death. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Because I just got to a point once Chris passed, I was just like, I'm sick and tired of my friends, like, dying unnecessarily. Like, I'm sick of. I'm just sick of it. And it continues. Anytime I see somebody die that died unnecessarily, more or less. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Now, for those of you who might not know, September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, which is another reason why I decided to have this discussion today. And the goal right now, and as I'm literally checking my emails as I mention this, a friend of my mother's is works with the Stratton VA in Albany, and we are working on having her on this show, most likely next episode, episode 15. She's a suicide caseworker who just recently got promoted. So we're just gonna chop it up and discuss suicide and veterans, and just see what we can do to put the cause out there and raise more awareness, because Lord knows we need it at this point. And I'll share more details as we get closer on social media. So bear with me as we work out the details. But just giving you a heads up, that's what we're aiming to do with episode 15, is have somebody on, have a family friend on that's part of the VA, the Stratton VA in Albany, to discuss that kind of stuff. All right. So sorry I ended this awkwardly because I really didn't know how to end it, but that does work for episode 14 of The Space Between Your Ears. Don't forget, if you want to check out any of the past episodes on YouTube, you can just click on the Godzilla Media channel, like and subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you know when episodes of your favorite podcasts are uploaded to YouTube. If you're on Google Play, if you're on Apple Podcasts, if you're on Spotify, make sure you go and rate and subscribe us there, whether it be the show or Godzilla Media in general. If you do have any comments, you can always find my Twitter at Brian Cady, BrianCady, or shoot me an email, brian.cady@GodzillaMedia.com. Thank you again to our sponsors, Mohawk Honda, Johnstone Supply, and be on the lookout because I will be doing a giveaway of some sort on Facebook, because I am going to work on reestablishing the push on growing a Facebook page devoted to this show. So if you go to facebook.com and look up The Space Between Your Ears, become a fan of the page, and I'll start posting like I was before about that. So yeah, do that. Love you. Talk to you soon. In the meantime, have a great weekend. Peace.